What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me again on another weekly video. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, and it's reading. Now, this is going to be I think a pretty good video as far as giving some kind of advice, pointers, tips on how to know what to read next if you are maybe at a roadblock and you don't really know what to read next, or you don't even know where to start. I was there at one point. I talked to a lot of my friends who are there, and it's not a fun place to be in, especially if you've gone through reading something really great and the final chapter and it's done and you don't really know what to read next, or if you're on the reverse, you just don't really feel like reading and you're wondering what's the point? I didn't like it in school, or if you're in school, you don't like it. And I think there is a value to reading, and I'm gonna give 4 really great tips that have helped me kind of determine what to read and really kept things very interesting. But a quick update on the giveaway. I know some of you guys have reached out trying to figure out where the decks that you won are at. I had a bit of a shipping problem, but that has been resolved, so I will be putting out an update really soon, probably by 2 Minute Tuesday next week, if I can get around to doing that video. But regardless, I'm going to update you all very shortly. It'll have tracking numbers, it'll have everything. The deck will be on its way to you. Again, bear with me, I apologize. I just had a little bit of a shipping issue that has been resolved. So without further ado, these are 4 tips when trying to figure out what to read next, or how to even begin knowing what field of interest you'd like to jump into. I had to write them down because they are pretty good. This is how I work. I have to write everything down. I had this prepared. I did. Tip number 1, take a break for 30 minutes in silence and think about what question comes to mind, what idea. Whenever you're taking a walk, driving, sitting at your dining room table, what's coming up into your head? Are you wondering about the latest political move that just happened, or how to plant a blueberry bush, which is oddly satisfying, really. How to build a shed. You see, it can vary widely, and the first step that I would recommend is just take a pause, turn off the music, turn off the video games, put everything away for 30 minutes in a day. Go take a walk somewhere, listen to the birds, just listen to nature or the city sounds, wherever you're at. Take it all in, and take note of basically the thoughts that come to your mind. Write them down. So when you get home after that walk or that drive, look at what you've put down and do a simple Google search. What books come up in that field? Maybe that's a start. What you'll find too is that at the end of that book or during the book, the author might recommend a couple of other sources where they got their information, or other fields of interest that may be of interest to the reader if you're reading that book. That already starts a rabbit trail of different topics you may want to venture in. Or at the end of the book, if you're not interested, hey, you learned something. Did we ever get hurt from learning new things? No. The second point that I would recommend is read at least 3 different perspectives on that particular topic. So let's just say you're reading a book on how to plant a blueberry bush. You read one author's perspective, then on Amazon or on Google, there may be different recommended authors, or even in the comment section. I love reading the reviews, seeing what people are saying about it. A lot of times they'll put down other recommendations that they may say, hey, this author offers a different perspective than what you just read. They may recommend doing that. I find a lot of different perspectives, and here's why I would recommend that. First, that gives you a lot more material to read. Second, that also gives you different varying perspectives on one idea. So you may read an author that you may agree with, great. The reason I recommend reading somebody who may differ in that opinion is that it informs your knowledge of that particular topic. So this particular author may like planting blueberry bushes at a certain time of the day. He or she may have good reasons for it, but then you may read somebody else that could be talking about how to plant a blueberry bush in a different season of the year. And although there may be general guidelines as to when to plant it, they may be recommending different things that could suit your needs a little better. I'm not sure why we're talking so much about blueberry bushes. What's a little more deep? Ooh, that's a good one. Another varying topic, if you want to get more into the philosophical or the deeper end, is the area of morality. You may want to get a better understanding as to, throughout the generations from before history was written till today, how was morality determined? You know, what's right and wrong, what's good and bad, you know, good and evil, who determines that? There's gonna be a lot of different perspectives on that. That's one that I think you could get lost in. So, but that lends more to my point. There are shallow topics that are fun to read about, like how to plant a blueberry bush, and then also very deep topics like how to determine morality. Different perspectives are gonna help in that because again, it'll inform your view more. You don't want to be one that's locked in an echo chamber. If you're constantly hearing the same idea and it sounds more or less what you might be thinking, and it sounds like it's just your ideas and you're never coming into contact with somebody else's that may differ, the friction there helps. Because then it's gonna force you to ask questions about your view on whatever topic it may be, but in this instance, maybe good and bad, morality. It may force you to ask certain questions about it you would have never thought to ask. That opposing author, that opposing viewpoint may bring up other points that may have been good for you to note in order to fine tune your view, or may offer evidence for why you might be wrong in an area or two, or maybe the entire view. Whether it's blueberry bushes or good and evil, get 3 or more perspectives because it's gonna fine tune your view on something, your thinking, and then also prepare you for when you have conversations with other people if you talk about blueberry bushes or good and bad. It could vary. So what topics come up at school, work, church, etc. that you may not know about? So in your social circle, with your friends, co-workers, family members, pay attention to the topics that come up, even at school, wherever it may be. Pay attention to the topics. Don't jump in if you don't know anything about that topic, but rather in order to develop a relationship or to even engage people more meaningfully and thoughtfully, pay attention to what you may not know about. A question may come up in a conversation that you may want to jump into because maybe you heard something on social media that addresses that, and you're not really too sure where that view came from, and you're not even, if you're honest with yourself, you may not even know how to thoughtfully respond to that. Those are perfect topics to go and use the first 2 points that I listed out, search for a book in that realm, and engage the authors and engage the knowledge in that sphere. So that's one thing I love to do, especially at family gatherings. For example, 2020 was a very tough year for all of us. There's a lot of questions floating around as to, should people lock down? Should they not? Should they mask up? Should they not? I'm not gonna talk about my view in this video at all, but as you may know, there were a lot of questions that came up, a lot of lines drawn in the sand. But there were also a lot of different perspectives I was not aware of that I thought, since I knew my perspective, I was right and anybody opposing was wrong. What I went ahead and did was, aside from asking and having conversations with the people that differed from me, I went and grabbed some books in various different topics in that year. I know that year had brought up a lot of questions, but that's a very great one because, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to allow you to have a more thoughtful and meaningful response. And at the end of the day, you want to connect with people. Nobody really likes to be isolated, and nobody really likes to start arguments or fights, but just pay attention to what comes up in your normal everyday environment. Pay attention to what you don't know, and if you don't have a response for it, well, that's a great book topic. And fourth, look up on the internet, Amazon, wherever, a person you look up to, whether living or not living. It may be an important historical figure, maybe somebody who's living currently, like a pop star or comedian. Chances are there's probably something written about them, whether a biography, autobiography, or even just stories around that person's lifestyle, things that they've done. But I think reading biographies especially are very important because it gets a person out of their little sphere. You and I can get really wrapped up in the everyday things that we have to do. From the moment we wake up, we have things we need to do, and we can often get wrapped up in that, all the while forgetting that there's a whole other world out there. Well, reading biographies, it does help you understand how somebody else got along in the world, and you may even find ways that you resonated with that person, again, living or not living, and see how they addressed certain questions that you yourself may be going through, or brought up topics that you would have never thought about. But it ends up making life a little more meaningful because when we get outside of ourselves, we realize there's a whole lot more to the world than just what I'm thinking up here in my head and what I want to do and what I would not want to do. Now, one quick note. I know that you're probably thinking, look, I don't have the time to read, and I totally get that. Not a lot of us are gonna be waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning just to get a little bit of time in to read before the day just gets crazy, because I don't know about you, but I have a crazy schedule, and so for me, the best time I've realized to read is early in the morning, like early in the morning. I'm talking like 3 or 4 in the morning, because once 8 o'clock hits, There is just so much to do. So here's what I would recommend if you're starting out, or even if you're just a seasoned reader, but maybe you just found yourself not having the time to read. 10 minutes a day. That's it, 10 minutes a day. Split it up if you have to. What I found is in 10 minutes a day, you can finish, I have the numbers right here. If you do 10 minutes a day, you can finish a book, just one book, within 1 to 2 months, depending on the size of the book, how fast you may read. If you do 10 minutes a day, that's one book every 1 to 2 months. You can average anywhere from 6 to 12 books a year. That's a whole lot. Now, what you'll also discover, if you do that little tactic of 10 minutes a day, every year you get a little bit faster. You get a little more efficient, especially if you've discovered your niche of where you want to read. You'll learn how to pick up on cues, how to read different kinds of authors. There's definitely a science to reading certain different niches, whether it's history, philosophy, science, how to plant a blueberry bush. But with a little bit of consistency every single day, only 10 minutes, you'll notice you'll get pretty efficient at reading certain books and may even want to get adventurous and venture into other realms. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know in the comment section if any of those tips help, if you've done one of these before. If you have something else that works for you that I did not outline in this video, please let me know. I'm always looking for ways to read a little bit more, try and cram in a little bit more in my busy day. And if you have any book recommendations that you like, maybe something that really stood out to you or a favorite pick, please let me know in the comment section. Again, I'm always updating my list of books to read because, as I said earlier, you can never get too many perspectives to inform your thinking. And that's one thing that I think we should all just be kind of open to, opening up our minds to understand how the world works a little bit more beyond our four walls. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. Drop a like in this video if you did. Hit me up in the comment section and we will see you guys in the next video.